What's going on, everybody? This is the total takedown for UFC Vegas 42. We are going back over the card, talking totals. How long is this fight going to last? Over 1.5 rounds, under 2.5 rounds. What do we think, rather than picking a side? Do me a favor, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio if you haven't already. Smash that like button for me, and let's dive straight on into Saturday's UFC Vegas 42. Bet all the overs. Thank you for tuning in. No, I'm kidding. We will go through each fight, but be ready to hear that a lot on this card. First fight of the night, light heavyweight, Kennedy Njoku taking on Da-Un Jung. And, I mean, we got the big boys here. Like, this is one where we absolutely should be looking at violence. The only problem is both these guys have more than enough gas in the tank to go over. Total set at 2.5. Over is minus 150. Under looks like it's about plus 110 around the market. And I have to say I agree with the over. Da-Un Jung is a guy that relies on control time. He likes to get in your face, press you up against the cage. Kennedy Njoku is a notoriously slow starter, and while he's got a reach advantage and fast hands and good power, he doesn't really turn up until the second or the third round of the fight. So there's a chance he lets this one squeeze on by him and doesn't accumulate enough damage to get Da-Un Jung out of there. And on the flip side of this thing, Jung isn't finishing Kennedy. Kennedy's a freak when it comes to his durability. There's no way he's going down to a punch or something like that. It'll be control time. So unless Kennedy gets the KO because he does something completely different from what we've seen before, I'm expecting this one to hit the judges' scorecards. Next up, a lightweight fight, Mark Diakiese taking on Rafael Alves. Total here set at 2.5. We got the over at minus 175, the under at plus 155. This would be maybe one of the two fights on this entire card where I will be tempted on an under spot getting a plus line. Mark Diakiese's taken about a year off since his last fight. We expect improvements. He's been working with guys like Khamzat Chimaev, so got to expect that level up from him. He's a freak athlete. He's got those hard leg kicks. And his opponent, Rafael Alves, is a guy who's kind of kill or be killed. The problem with Diakiese is he's a bit of a grinding decision machine. So even though he's got that technical skill, he's got that ability to finish, we haven't really seen it shown off in the UFC so far. Rafael Alves can KO anybody in that first round. Up at 155, though, he seems to have a little more gas in the tank and be a bit more durable, and that kind of makes me afraid that he's getting away from that killer be killed style, in which case this one will grind its way to a decision as well. But I do think that Rafael can force the action, and if he forces the action, he's live to get KO'd by Mark Diakiese, but that all comes down to how Rafael Alves decides to attack this thing. I'm not betting it, but the plus money on the under 2.5, little tempting in that spot because of the way we've seen Alves fight in the past. Flyweight fight, Courtney Casey taking on Liana Jojua. Now, right after I make the little spoof intro about going over on every single fight, I'm going to talk about another under. We've got a total here set at 2.5. Over is minus 220, under 2.5 is plus 180. And this is a spot where I think if you're going to bet the under, probably look at the fight does or doesn't go the distance instead, because we have seen a couple of these women's fights have that last second finish. Courtney Casey being one of them, I think, against my girl Jillian Robertson. So we want to make sure we remember that that is on the table in this particular spot. Liana Jojua, sick ground game. She's got good grappling. She's got some pretty heavy hands, but her striking has a long way to go to get caught up here. Courtney Casey is kind of the evolved version of Liana Jojua. She's got the good ground game. She's got the good striking. She's been working on that hard the last couple of years, and you can tell she's coming along. She had a lot of success on the feet in her last couple fights, but she gets bullied physically. She gets taken down. She gets grinded on because she can't keep herself upright. If Liana Jojua puts on her wrestling singlet here and comes out and decides to hold on to that top position, play position over submission, she probably grinds out a 15-minute win here. If she doesn't do that, I think the finish is entirely live on both sides of things. We've seen Jojua outclassed and taken out of there before. We've also seen Jojua be able to dominate people on the ground, and she is the definition of the armbar from guard. She can snap anybody off at any point in time on the ground, so both women can be finished. Both women have been finished and can do the finishing themselves. I mentioned the striking improvements from Courtney Casey. If she comes out and keeps this thing on the feet, there's a chance we get a TKO from her side. Roll the dice on that, under 2.5 on that one. I don't mind that one one so bit. Again, fight doesn't go the distance rather than the under. Featherweight fight, Sean Woodson taking on Colin Anglin. And what we've got is a total at 2.5. Over is minus 210. Under is plus 175. I would love to argue for that under at plus 175. Can't do it. Colin Anglin's a guy that's coming off of being finished in his UFC debut. Generally speaking, you see guys try to be a little more tentative the next time out, play a little bit more intelligently, try to fight to their strengths. They don't want to get KO'd and embarrassed a second time. Sean Woodson's a guy that even though he's got that boxing repertoire, even though he's got that back class, he also is somebody who tends to go the distance. He's a volume striker type. And this is a spot where we've seen this fight play out before very, very similarly when Woodson fought Zalal. I think Colin Anglin is going to look to use a lot of grappling and get a lot of control time. Yeah, he might be live for a ground and pound TKO or a sub if he gets it there, but Woodson's a handful. He's big for the division. I think Colin Anglin's going to have his hands full trying to just keep him on the mat, and I do think both these guys will extend the fight and we'll get to a judge's decision. So another chalky over is what I'm looking at there. Women's flyweight, Cynthia Calvillo taking on Andrea KGB Lee. Total set at 2.5. Over is -310. Under is +255. And let's be real, these women aren't finishing each other. We have seen both of them be completely durable. We have seen Cynthia Calvillo get TKO'd, but that was by Jessica Andrade. Lee doesn't have that kind of power. Lee's not submitting Cynthia Calvillo. If anything, if they get in a grappling situation, Calvillo might be able to ground and pound Lee, but Lee is not one that goes away easily. She will die on her shield. She will fight for your money. Unless she gets some kind of a bad cut or something like that, she will scramble. She will roll. She'll get out of there and stay alive. This one's going over. Main fight for the preliminary card here. Thiago Moisés taking on Joel Álvarez. Total here set at 2.5 once again. Over is -190. Under is +165. Another one where I was tempted to look at the under, especially with the finishing upside of one Joel Álvarez, but the problem is we've got Thiago Moisés on the other side of the cage who completely negates that finishing upside. You don't finish this man. I know he just got tapped in his last fight, but do we really think Joel Álvarez is on that level of grappling? He likes to play more off of his back rather than being a power wrestler, getting on top position, so he's not going to have the same opportunities. And because of that, I think Thiago Moisés is having the wrestling advantage here and fighting the much higher level of competition so far in his UFC career. If anything, he'll be the one finishing, but Joel Álvarez is freakishly big for the division. I don't think he's going to get knocked out. I think it's going to be kind of a grinding, grappling affair where Thiago Moisés minds the range, maybe pins him up against the fence, takes him down, double leg, puts him on his back. Joel Álvarez probably hunts for sweeps and submissions off the mat, but Thiago's a good enough wrestler and good enough jiu-jitsu practitioner himself that he just stays in top position. So again, I'm expecting a very grindy 15-minute fight from these two. Main card time, Bantamweight fight, Song Yadong taking on Julio Arce. This is one of those ones that might surprise people and come in here with an under, but both these guys tough, durable, technical strikers, high volume. This should be a really fun fight to watch. I fully expect Julio Arce and Song Yadong to go to war. The thing is, Julio Arce, his opponents that he's finishing are not so great. They're guys that are either not doing well in the UFC or have been cut from the UFC. Song Yadong's fought a very high level of competition, and he is crazy durable. So even though Julio Arce gets these lesser fighters out of there, he ain't getting Song Yadong out of there. And Song is probably not going to finish Julio Arce. Again, I expect it to be a back-and-forth grinding style decision. Total set at 2.5. Over is -220. Under is +180. And heck, we might just be able to do like an overs parlay on this kind of a card, kind of like taking all the chalky favorites in a Bellator main event. We'll just bet all the overs and the fight goes to the decision and do it that way and just completely avoid the judges. Next fight, Miguel Baeza taking on Khaos. Kalen Williams. Love these guys. This is going to be such a good fight and one of the few under spots maybe on the card. Total here set at 2.5. The over is +105. The under is -125. Miguel Baeza, by far the more technical guy. We know his grappling is super high level. We just don't see it that often. Khaos Williams, big time power with this guy's hands. Death touch. He's active. He swings those big power hooks. We've seen Miguel Baeza be chinny, and that's, I think, the big reason that this line is where it's at right now. If Miguel Baeza minds his P's and Q's, sticks and moves, mixes in that grappling, he might be able to finish by submission, but he probably squeezes his way to a 15-minute decision. If he attacks those low calf kicks, if he decides to go to war with Khaos, well, either of these guys realistically could get put out. We have seen Baeza hurt and rocked a bunch of times. Khaos has been very durable. We've seen him take some big shots, but he has not fought this level of a competitor in the UFC to this point. So there's a good chance that we just haven't seen him really tested. So if his chin gets tested by somebody like Baeza, maybe he does go down. And those calf kicks, you know those calf kicks can get anybody. I don't care how tough your chin is, you ain't doing shit when someone's kicking the hell out of your calf. So this one could potentially go over -125. Seems like a fair price if you want to take a shot. Women's flyweight fight up next. Felicia Spencer taking on Leah Letson, and this is the warning fight of the night, because you don't want to have your money on this one really anywhere. Total set at 2.5. The over is minus 225. The under is plus 185. And I wouldn't hate a dart throw, I guess, at the under here, but we really don't know what we're getting into. You know, Felicia Spencer, so far in the UFC, very limited competition. She's fought the best in the world, and she's been tough. She's been gritty. She refuses to give up. She's made some bad mistakes, bad fight IQ moments. When she faces somebody who's not on her level, she gets them to the mat, she TKOs them, she submits them. So we're expecting kind of the same thing to happen here to poor Leah Letson. The problem is, Leah Letson is not a half-bad fighter. She's coming off of a 3-year layoff, and we could see a whole new version of her. And we gotta wonder, because she's had those health issues. She's been dealing with that. That's been the whole reason for the layoff. So maybe she ends up coming back looking like a new person. Maybe she looks like a, busted version of what she used to look like, and she just gets slaughtered on Saturday. We really have no idea. So I will expect Felicia Spencer to probably get the finish here, but I can't say that with any confidence whatsoever. And her wrestling isn't good, with her main path to victory being the submission game. Leah might be able to force her to stand and trade, in which case we could be looking at another boring 15-minute grinding decision. This card might be rough, folks, if we're being honest. Co-main event, I'm going to say over, by the way, if that wasn't clear. Co-main event, Ben Rothwell, Marcos Rogério de Lima. Here's a fun one. Total set at 2.5. Over is plus 135. Under is minus 155. Big Ben Rothwell, a dude well known for his durability. Most people cannot finish this man. He's got that submission offense. We know Marcos Rogério de Lima is small for the division. He's had that submission defense issue. However, what we've seen from him recently is a bit of an upgrade when it comes to his fight IQ and his strategies in the cage. We've seen him develop that low calf kick. He was giving Romanov fits with that bad boy, got back to his feet with an explosion and started going to work with his hands again. Ben Rothwell, we've seen that durability start to waver just a little bit. He hasn't been put out by anybody yet, but OSP sure had him on skates there for a few minutes. So what we have here is maybe the perfect mixture of a spot for an under 2.5. Minus 155 seems a little pricey for me. I know Marcos Rogério de Lima is mostly seen as a one-round KO or bust type of fighter, but again, those IQ level ups, I'm kind of expecting him to extend this one a little bit. Although, don't count him finishing out on this, because Big Ben Rothwell is slow, plodding, walks forward, puts all of his weight on those front legs. He's going to be ripe for that calf kick. And if de Lima goes in there with a calf kick heavy game plan, we could see Ben Rothwell not able to stand about 3 minutes in. So, yeah, I'm going to say under for the co-main event, but I definitely don't want to pay minus 155 for it, because both these guys they've got a tendency to be slow and plodding, and this could be a, two heavyweights gassed out 7 minutes in type of situation where neither guy can get the finish or the takedown. Main event time. Max Holloway taking on Yair Rodríguez. Head and shoulders, far and away the best fight on this entire damn card. Total here apparently sits at 3.5. It looks like some books are moving more towards the 4.5. So we'll talk about that, since that's more widely available. Over 4.5 is minus 150. Under 4.5 is plus 130. It looks like they opened it at the 3.5 mark and it got pounded to the over. So now people are kind of shifting to that 4.5. And 4.5, I'd have to look under, if I'm being honest. The over is what's taking money right now, but we have seen Max Holloway just break people. We have seen Yair Rodríguez in a couple of long fights, and he hasn't looked great in his 5-rounders. He did finish that 5-rounder that he did have against the Korean Zombie with that crazy up elbow, ended it right there in the 5th round, but he was on the wrong side of that fight up until that point. With the way Max Holloway pressures people, with the way he adds up that volume on people, I think Yair Rodríguez is going to be put in a life and death situation a lot sooner in this fight. I think it's going to come down to that 3rd and 4th rounds where Yair Rodríguez is really going to have to do something we've never seen to Max Holloway before, or he's probably going to end up crumbling like everybody else who faces Max does. And I'll be honest, I question Yair Rodríguez's heart. Now, maybe that's a personal bias for me, but the guy seems like a bully, kind of a good hammer and a bad nail type of situation that I gotta wonder what it's going to look like when he gets to round 4. He can hardly see out of his eyes. His face is all lumped up. Is he gonna continue fighting out there against Max Holloway, or is he gonna take his ball and go home? I feel like we could see him go ahead and look for an exit if he's just getting lumped on for 20 straight minutes. So I would take the under 4.5 at a plus 130 line. It looks like it's out there. 5 Dimes has that. Everybody else is about even money, so snipe that one if you can. This one one you could do fight doesn't go the distance and get even money on the under, which doesn't sound like a bad call to me either. So I expect violence in the main event, but pretty much all but like 2 or 3 other fights on the entire card are probably going over. So buckle in, folks. This one could be a long one. That's the total takedown. Don't forget to comment down here below. Let me know what your favorite total for UFC Vegas 42 is. Smash that like button for me. Do me a favor. Come on. Love you guys. Good luck on all your bets. Let's roll.